Oliver Pichon Luthier here, and we have this little fretboard that we have made, and it's coming out really nice. As you can see, the inlay is done on the front. We just the client decided to have these little ovals on the side. We have side dots on it, which are mother of pearl. These are Paua abalone from New Zealand on here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the frets on. And first thing we have to do is to cut the fret. The fret wire comes in lengths like this. This is particularly nice fret wire. It's Evo Gold, which is a combination of steel and copper and something else, which I'm not sure what it is. But we need to cut this, and then we need to step the tangs to fit over the tops of the binding. So in order to avoid tedium, I have already cut all of these and sized them. And I have this nice little board that I made with holes in it, and these are the fret marker locations here. So it's 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, and 15. On this one, we're not doing the 15th inlay on the fretboard. So we're just going to put these all down. So these are all done, and now, but I'm going to do the last one, so that you can see how that is done. So what we do is we take our fret wire and I lay it across the top of the fretboard right where it goes, and I put one side that is flush with this side, and then I have my nippers here, and I'm going to nip this so it is just about 3/32 longer than the fretboard is wide. So right there, and I just clip it off like that. So we have this piece. Now, obviously that's not going to go in there because, as you can see, if I hold it close here to the camera, you can see that it has the tang on it, which is this lower portion that goes in the slot, is going to have to be trimmed so that it can go over the binding on this. So for doing that job, we have a fret nipper here, and the issue with this, with ukuleles, is different than with guitars. With the guitar, you can pretty much just nip it off right where you want it because the fret wire is bigger and it won't bend. But with these, with this very small, it's a narrow crown on it, you have to be careful that you don't bend it. So what we do is we just kind of nip at it a little bit here and just take off little bits at a time until we get about that much there. And you can see, I don't know if the camera will show that, but you can see how it's stepped there. And what I do is I just lay it across the top here to check it. And I can see that I'm going to need a little bit more off of this side, and then we'll take some off of the other side. So we just take a little bit more off of this side. And now the other side, we put it here, and we can see that we want to take off. There are little ridges on the tang, and I use those as markers. So it's going to be about 2.5 of those little little divots that are on there that we want to go past that. Okay, so we just kind of chew on it a little bit here to make sure that we don't bend it, just taking a little bit off at a time. And then I lay it on there to make sure that it'll work, and that is just perfect right there. So once that is done, well, we see that if we look at this carefully, that this portion that we've cut off right there is a little rough on the bottom, and it's not exactly all the way to the bottom of the crown. So what we do in this case is, I'll put the camera over here so you can see, is I have a little vise that I put in my other vise. So this vise can give the other vise, add vise, And then we can, I don't know if you can see this from here or not, but what I do is I take, I'll turn it a little bit so it'll show better. I take this and I put it so that the crown is down and the tang is up in the vise, like this. And then I have a little file, and we're going to file where we just cut the tang on this with our tang nippers, and we just file it down so it's perfectly flat and smooth. And then I take that little corner that's going to go in the slot and I just give it a little bit of a sneaky lick there to round it off, and then we just turn it around. We'll do the other side. So here's the other side. It doesn't take long, but as you can see, when you have 18 frets and you have to do this on both sides of every one of them, it can take a little while to do. So that is done. So this one is going to go into our box here that we have, our board that has all the frets in them. They're all different sizes, so it's really important to keep them straight. If you're just making one as a hobby and you don't want to make a board like this, you can take a piece of masking tape and tape it to a little board so the sticky side is up, and put them on that, because that'll keep them in order for you, and you don't want to lose them. So we're going to set that there for now. Take this vise out, and now we're going to install those. I have a nice piece of cherry that's pretty solid and thick that I put in my vise like this, and I get it nice and tight in there. And then we're going to take our fretboard here and we're going to just set it on top. And I've got a dead blow hammer here. This is a dead blow hammer, and it's got a brass head on one side and it's plastic on the other, but it's hollow with pellets in it so that it creates a dead blow. We're going to glue these frets in, which I think is always wise, and we'll glue them in with a little CA glue. And the trick of putting these in without bending them is using one of these. This is just a putty knife that I use for this, that I've got nice and smooth, and it works perfectly for this situation. So we'll start putting these frets in now. So the first thing we're going to do is, I always double, triple check everything, is I take my first fret and I lay it across, and I make sure that I have those tangs cut so that it'll fit in there. And this one is just exactly the perfect size. The tang goes right up to the edges of the binding. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that our fret slot doesn't have any sawdust or junk in it that's going to impede putting that in. So we just take this is a little hook that is just exactly the same size as the fret slot, and we can go and we can make sure that there's nothing in there. Now we take a little bit of CA glue, and I just, with this little tip on here, I just want to put a very small little drop right there and a very small little drop here, and it runs in the channel, so we know that that's going to be okay. Then we take our fret, and holding it between our thumb and other finger that we have, we hold that and we just have it so that the corner sits right there in the slot, and we can just give it a little tap to make sure that that corner is in the slot. So there it is. Once we have it started in the slot, I take this putty knife and I lay it over on top of it like this, and then I hit that like this, and we run it in there. You could hear it when it's fully seated. So the reason The reason for using this is to make sure that A, we don't dent our fret with the hammer, even though it is brass, and we also make sure that it spreads the blow out to, when we hit it, the blow of the hammer, so that it will not create dents or bends in the fret itself. Notice that the fret is longer than it needs to be. It's sticking out a little bit on either side, and that's what we want. We'll come back and we'll trim that later. So we check this one. This one is good. So, and I already checked the slot for any kind of junk that was in it, and we thought that drop was a little more, and I see it's running all the way down to this other side. I'm going to just take a little paper towel and make sure we kind of wipe that off. We're going to sand the whole thing down later anyway, so it'll be fine. So now we're going to set that one in there so it's right at the corner. So these frets, those are really held in there well. They have those little kind of lumps, little lumpy things on the tang to see. Now if that happens where you find that it doesn't go in quite where you want on that side, sometimes I just turn them around because it's one of those little bump things that's holding us up. So that one is started, and now we just there it is. So that one's in place. So little glue came out there. I'll just wipe it off with my paper towel, and we just keep going. We just keep doing this. So until we get the whole thing done, and make sure there's nothing in that slot. And I'll do a couple of them. I know you think I could probably have done this before, but I like doing it right at the time because you never know if something got into it in the meantime. You know, you're in a shop situation and you just don't know. So once again, we just put a little bit, teeny little bit of CA glue in there. Whoops, and there you can see it. That dropped, and that drop is running. It ran the whole length of the slot. And we take this one, set it there where we want it. Give it a little tap. Start it. Perfect. So we'll keep doing this the whole length of the fretboard. So I don't think you need to see me do the whole thing, but that's how that works. When we get it all to the point where we have them all, we take our fret nippers and we come along, and what we're going to do first is just put the fret nippers square up against the side of the fretboard like this, and then we're just going to nip that off, that little piece that sticks out like that, so that it's flush. We're going to have to round that edge a little bit, and we're going to have to polish it so that it's not sharp and doesn't give people problems. But this is what we'll do for the whole fretboard once we get it to that point. And you can see how they're sticking out a little bit, and I just trim them off with these nippers. Nippers are really wonderful tools. So anyway, you can see that's how that goes. I'm going to continue doing this, and then we won't level and recrown and polish the frets and everything until we get it glued to the neck, and that'll be another video how to do all that. So I hope you enjoyed this. If it's been helpful to you, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested in having me make an ukulele for you, you know, please, you can email me, or and my contact information is in my website, which is www.oliverpichonluthier.com.